Alright friends, welcome back to the final day of Yule-O-Ween, day 13. It is Christmas Day, so Merry Christmas if you celebrate, Happy Holidays for any other celebrations, or if you're just spending time with your family or by yourself and giving yourself the gift of being alone and just hanging out by yourself, that's great too. And yeah, I wanted to do a little bit of a recap of Yule-O-Ween. This is the first year I've done this. I don't know if anyone's ever done, like, I know there's like Summer-Ween and Winter-Ween that Gabby Reeds does, but I wanted this to be kind of like a Yule celebration because that's what I celebrate, and kind of like some books that I read for this, I purposely wanted it to be spooky. I read some horror, I read some, I guess paranormal is what you would call it, books. And yeah, I wanted to just do a little bit of a recap. I promise this isn't going to be one of those boring recaps. I've got a couple of things I wanted to talk about, but I also wanted to kind of like talk about what I learned, and as a really small creator and someone who's never done this before, if you're curious as to what it was like, stay tuned, I guess, closer to the end. Let's go ahead and get started. Want to talk about the 6 books that I read. Let's see, what did I start with? The first book that I read was Nightmare Before Christmas, and I wanted to read this because I feel like it encapsulated Summer-Ween. It's a spooky male-male romance of the Prince of Christmas and the Prince of Halloween, and they shouldn't be together, but they want to be anyway. This one was pretty cheesy. I really enjoyed it though for what it was. I gave it a 3.75. Sorry, I'm looking over at my computer. I gave it a 3.75, and I think that's pretty much exactly what I wanted and what I needed. It was something that I started like the day that the semester ended, so I wanted something silly, and that's what I got. Second thing I read was Love Light Farms, just because I have heard so much about it and I like First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. So I did end up reading that. I actually liked it less than The Nightmare Before Christmas, which was really surprising to me, but it was still fun. I feel like there's a couple things I didn't love in it. It didn't feel super Christmassy to me, and a lot of stuff felt convenient, and it just kind of felt kind of surface level for some of it, which is why I didn't give it like a 4 or a 5, but I still really liked seeing B.K. Borison's early work, and it was interesting later in my vlogs reading more B.K. Borison and seeing how she's changed over the years. I gave that one a 3.5. And then I read Hunted by Darcy Coates. And though this is my longest book that I read at 450 pages, this was probably my most disappointing, or like the one I cared about the least. It felt like someone, and I'm so sorry, Darcy Coates, there's books that I do really like by her. They're kind of popcorn reads for me. It's not like the most profound thing, but this one just kind of felt very formulaic and silly, and I guessed the twist very, very early on, like 2 of the twists very early on. Would I read this book again or recommend it to people? If you want to, but I probably wouldn't read it again just because A, it's supposed to be like a thriller or a horror. It wasn't super scary to me at all, and it honestly, it was kind of boring. So I gave that, I think, a 3. It was very, very mid. And then the next book that I read, which is something that I saw a lot last year, was Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. I don't know what I expected out of this. It was good. It was obviously very short. It's more of a novella, and it just kind of like a slice of life of our main character and him trying to grapple with societal pressures and like church pressures and whether he should do the right thing or not. But I really thought we were going to go more into what the doing the right thing was. It felt very much like there was still a little bit of a story to be told towards the end, and it ended a little bit abruptly, but I did still give it a 4. I think that if you want like just a short novella about Christmas that you can read in an hour, this is it. And I mean, it's a pretty book too. I don't love that it's Oprah's book club because I'm not a huge fan of Oprah. There's no ethical billionaires, so I'm just gonna leave that at that. And then I wanted to lean more into the horror, so I found one of my favorite books of the year doing so, and this is a grief horror family trauma style book that I guess is more of like a thriller. It didn't have any jump scares, but it also dealt with the horror that is grieving and the horror of bad things happening to good people. I really enjoyed getting a glimpse into what it's like to be a creep person, especially in the modern day, and I really think that Jessica Johns did great. I cried several times at this just because a lot of the stuff about grief hit home. You know, I lost someone very recently in the last couple months, and it really hit home for me. There's this quote that I already quoted in the vlog where I read this, but I'm going to say it again. "We had her forever in only a minute. She was alive, full, present, and then she shapeshifted into nothing. There was no measure of time that made it make sense." They're talking about like losing a family member. I think that that's really just the way that Jessica Johns explores grief. I think it was great. This is a pretty fairly high rating, I think, on Storygraph, but I think a lot of the problems that some people have with this book is that they feel like it's too slow burn and like nothing happens until towards the end. But I disagree with that. I think that its nature as like a slow burn of a book is that things build up and up, which I feel like is what happens in real life. There's not like there's nothing there and then immediately something crazy happens. It's usually built up. A lot of the nature of the bad things that happen in life, a lot of them, not all of them, there's signs or there's some sort of reckoning, or you're denying that something's even happening in your mind. And I think that she really encapsulates that really well. And I think that I feel a lot of camaraderie with our main character, Mackenzie, in this, and just like the dynamic that she has with her family and having to deal with grief and what it's like to grieve as a family versus like by yourself. What's right and what's wrong? Is there a right and wrong when it comes to grieving? Which there isn't really, unless you're like hurting other people. I really enjoyed this, and I think I'm going to be recommending this to a lot of people. I wouldn't go into it thinking that it's going to be like a jump scare horror, but I do think it's definitely worth a read, like very, very much so. I really, really enjoyed it. And then the final book that I read was Good Spirits by B.K. Borison, and this was a surprise for me. I thought it might be a little bit too cheesy, especially because I didn't love Love Light Farms, which is the same author, but I did love First Time Caller by this author, and that is much more of a recent book, and I think she's really, really grown as an author. I think a lot of the mistakes she made in Love Light Farms, or that I feel she made, reading critique is subjective. I think that she fixed it in this, and I think this is a really unique story. Falls in love with the ghost of Christmas past. She could have leaned into the cheesiness, and I don't think she did as much as she could have, which I'm glad for. There was a little bit of it, like there was a little bit of like, this kind of feels like a Hallmark movie at a few points in the book, but I don't feel like it was egregious or something that would make me stop reading it, and it didn't happen very often. So I'm really, really happy I picked this up. It's probably my prettiest holiday book, and like I said, I don't like stenciled edges that much, but this one I think is definitely very festive, and I really, really liked it. So stay tuned. I'm not finishing off the video here because I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience doing Yule-O-Ween, just because if you are a new creator, you're thinking about becoming one, you probably hear a lot from like bigger creators that have been doing this for a really long time, or have a huge following, and I don't have that, but I think that it's important to kind of be transparent and talk about things. I went into this just hoping that I would have fun after classes ended and keep myself busy. I don't do well when I'm not busy, and it definitely did that. I think next year, if I do it again, or if I do a version of this, I'm gonna plan ahead a lot more, because it's not like Vlogmas. I'm not going to make myself like vlog every day. I think what I would do is do some videos a couple days before Yule-O-Ween starts that are going to be interspersed that aren't vlogs, and then make my vlogs a little bit longer, a couple days, maybe 1 or 2 days until I finish a book, and put those up as one of the days. It'd still be 13 days of Yule-O-Ween, but the sit down videos I'd probably do the week before Yule-O-Ween starts. Haven't decided that yet for sure. I think that's what I would do. Or what I'm going to do next year, just to make myself feel a little bit more sane. The best part about doing Yule-O-Ween, I think, has been really letting go of my perfectionism. I think I have a big problem with, I feel like the amount of hours that I put into a video will correlate to people liking it more, or, just it doing better. And that's not always the case. I think that, like, I've always tried to be as authentic as possible in my videos and just really be myself, but there's still that barrier of like not wanting to come off weird or seem strange, or like my ADHD and my neurodivergence. I think I unconsciously mask that a lot. I think because of the breakneck speed that I had to read and film and edit and post things, I couldn't do that. I couldn't be a perfectionist. I couldn't mask who I am. And I think that's a great thing. I think that has really helped me be okay with being truly myself in videos. And if people don't like it, then I guess I'm not the creator for them. I'm really happy that I did it. And I think that's probably gonna be the best thing that I've gotten out of this, is that I've really let go of my perfectionism a lot. And I think that's gonna continue on in my videos. And now that I've done 13 videos in 13 days, being able to film, read books, edit, do thumbnails and all of that within a few days, and getting ahead of them like a week or so ahead is going to be a lot easier. Knock on wood. I really hope so. I really think that it's been really helpful and kind of given me a lot of good practice. I've been able to speed up my editing and still do what I want to do and make it fun and like funny, but I'm not as much of a perfectionist with editing, with my actual filming, with how I talk about books. And I'm not saying like I was disingenuous before, but I'm letting go of perfectionism, which for me is really, really, really hard. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with how that turned out. My least favorite book, I think, was probably Hunted, and my absolute favorite book was Bad Cree, but I think Good Spirits is a close second. It's a pretty short video. I hope you guys have a good holiday, and I hope you enjoyed this Yule-O-Ween. I will be back. Probably it's going to be Thursday the 1st is the next time you'll see a video from me, and I hope you come back even though Yule-O-Ween is over and spend some time and be part of this tiny, tiny little community that I'm hoping to build. And I'll see you guys very, very soon. Bye.